The Galactic Council chamber was not built for silence. For 10,000 cycles, the chamber had been alive with noise, a constant storm of overlapping languages, clicking mandibles, vibrating tendrils, harmonized vocal cords, and the hum of the translation matrix struggling to keep pace. Delegates bickered, debated, traded insults, and threatened war every day. But now, nothing. The air was thick, heavy, almost electric. The council dome glowed dimly under the pale light of a single projection suspended above the great table, a slowly turning blue and white world. Its clouds swirled serenely, its oceans gleamed. It looked peaceful, innocent, even. Beneath it, golden standard galactic script spelled out its name. Terra, Humanity, Level 4 Species. Admiral Ktharn of the Vayari leaned forward in his floating chair, mandibles tight against his face. The soft hum of his levitation disc was the only sound in the chamber. He had faced warlords, pirates, and machine uprisings. He had seen moons crack apart under orbital fire. Yet even he felt a crawling dread as he stared at the projection. "They call them special forces," said Counselor Resh of the MYRRN, her translucent fins trembling with unease. "Elite warriors, trained for operations even our most hardened soldiers would balk at." Her gills fluttered in agitation. "But what you showed us on Ryloth Prime, that wasn't even them, was it?" Across the chamber, Ambassador Ilara Voss of the Elfi flicked her tail, the silver scales catching the low light. Her tone was dismissive. "We are not children, Resh. Every species has soldiers. Every world breeds killers." "No," Ktharn rasped, voice low and sharp. "You do not understand." He motioned with one clawed hand. The chamber lights dimmed further as the council AI projected a hollow recording into the air. The delegates leaned in. Fire. Smoke. A ruined colony world. Through the haze marched armored figures, bipeds, moving in formation, weapons shouldered. They did not run. They did not panic. They did not shout. They advanced like a single organism, every movement clean, every shot deliberate. Behind them, hovering drones swept ahead, scanning for threats. When they found them, the soldiers responded with terrifying precision, never wasting ammunition, never leaving a target standing. The footage zoomed in on a single human soldier pausing to reload. Through the visor, his eyes were visible for a fraction of a second, calm, focused, utterly unafraid. Tharn's mandibles clicked softly. That was not their elite force. That was a platoon, barely 50 humans. "And they stopped the entire Karg Hive invasion wave," whispered Resh, almost to herself. The chamber stayed dark. No one breathed. The delegates had seen many battles, but this was different. This was not simply soldiers fighting. This was warfare distilled. In the upper gallery, where off-world observers sat, a human stood with his arms folded. Captain Marcus Hale, United States Army Special Forces, watched the scene with a hard, unreadable face. He had been instructed not to speak, not to interfere. But he could feel the tension rolling through the chamber like a physical force. They had no idea. Marcus had fought alongside the regular infantry countless times. He respected them. Admired them. But he knew what lurked behind them, waiting for the day things got truly bad. The council thought what they just witnessed was the pinnacle of human warfighting. It wasn't. The real nightmare, the one the galaxy hadn't seen yet, was still sitting quietly behind the curtain. Tharn deactivated the holo, plunging the chamber into near darkness before the lights returned to normal. The Admiral's carapace seemed duller, his posture heavier. "I commanded the Vayari Third Fleet during the siege of Ryloth Prime," he said slowly. "My ships could not break through. My troops could not hold the cities. The Karg were everywhere, burrowed into the ground, swarming in numbers I had never faced." He turned his black, multifaceted eyes toward the delegates. Then the humans arrived. He let the words hang, heavy and ominous. They deployed a single regiment. His mandibles clicked once, sharply. In 3 days, the hive was gone. 3 days, gasped Resh. "You mean, they negotiated a surrender?" Noktharn's voice was cold as deep space. "They exterminated them. Every nest. Every clutch. Every drone. A ripple went through the chamber, fear, disgust, awe. Ilara Voss's silver tail lashed behind her. Surely you exaggerate. No species could. Do I look like one who exaggerates? Tharn snapped. His claws slammed into the armrest hard enough to chip the metal. We recovered charred husks of every queen. The tunnels were collapsed with shaped charges. Every surviving warrior was hunted down. They fought until the planet was silent. Resh turned her gaze back to the projection of Earth. The planet spun serenely, oceans gleaming like blue glass. And that was not their special forces? Tharn gave a slow, deliberate shake of his head. No, he said. That was just their common army. The chamber fell quiet again, the silence deeper now, heavier, like the air before a storm. From the gallery, Marcus's calm earpiece buzzed softly. Colonel Whitmore's voice came through. They're starting to understand, she said. Marcus didn't respond. His gaze was fixed on the delegates below, watching the weight of comprehension settle over them like a dark cloud. For the first time, the galaxy's most powerful council looked afraid. And Marcus knew what was coming next. Because if they thought Earth's regular troops were terrifying, they weren't ready for what was waiting in the shadows. The special forces weren't just trained to fight. They were trained to end wars. The war began not with a declaration, but with a scream. The distress call hit the fleet's comnet just after 0300 ship time. Captain Marcus Hale was in the gym aboard the USS Resolute when the klaxons went off, red lights bathing the corridors. His headset chirped once, a priority ping. He didn't hesitate. Minutes later, he was striding into the Resolute's war room, sweat still clinging to his shirt. The holotable in the center glowed with the image of a burning colony outpost on some nameless moon, a half-lit rock on the edge of civilized space. Plumes of smoke rose into the thin atmosphere, curling like dark fingers. Heat signatures blinked red, scattered through the wreckage, survivors and attackers, locked in a brutal struggle. Colonel Sarah Whitmore, commander of the Terran Expeditionary Force, stood at the head of the table. Her jaw was set like stone. Oryx mercenaries, she said, voice clipped. Heavy strike force. They're tearing through the local garrison. The colonists won't last the hour. Marcus's stomach turned cold. The Oryx were no ragtag raiders, they were professional killers. Hired muscle for anyone rich enough to afford them. Whitmore's gaze found him. Special forces are greenlit. You know what to do. Marcus didn't need to be told twice. 7 minutes later, he was in the belly of a drop ship with his team. Sergeant Daniel Reeves sat across from him, cleaning the lens on his sniper rifle with the same quiet focus he used before every mission. Beside him, Corporal Lisa Grant ran a systems check on the detonators strapped to her chest rig, lips moving silently as she counted under her breath. Specialist Connor Blake sat in the corner, headset already linked into the ship's systems, fingers dancing over a hollow keyboard as he prepped jamming protocols. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The red cabin lights pulsed with each warning tone as the pilot's voice crackled through the intercom. 90 seconds to hot zone. LZ is under fire. Marcus checked his weapon one last time, locking the magazine in with a sharp click. He glanced at his team, 4 sets of eyes met his. A single nod passed between them, a wordless oath. They were ready. 30 seconds. The ramp light turned from red to amber. Marcus's breathing slowed. Time stretched. The roar of the engines became a distant hum. His world narrowed to the weight of the rifle in his hands and the shape of the door in front of him. The ramp dropped. Hell greeted them. The outpost was a smoking ruin, its perimeter walls shattered, its defense turrets melted slag. The thin atmosphere carried a coppery tang of blood and burning metal. Shapes moved in the wreckage, massive, insectoid silhouettes, claws dripping with gore. Oryx. Marcus's voice was calm, even. Go. They moved. Reeves broke right, dropping to one knee as his rifle snapped to his shoulder. A single crack echoed. An Oryx commander, visible for just a fraction of a second, collapsed with its skull blown apart. Lisa sprinted past, pulling a microcharge from her belt and sliding it under the chassis of a disabled transport. She vaulted into cover just as the explosion lit up the night, sending shrapnel and alien bodies skyward. Connor's voice came through the team comm. Enemy comms are dark. They're blind and deaf. Good, Marcus growled. He moved through the battlefield like a phantom, every shot from his rifle deliberate. Oryx warriors surged toward him, shrieking, and dropped one after another. A colonist stumbled from cover, bleeding from a leg wound. Marcus grabbed the man by the collar and shoved him toward a med drone. Stay down until the shooting stops. The man nodded frantically and crawled away. It didn't take long. Within minutes, the outpost was silent except for the crackle of fires. Smoke curled upward, glowing red in the moonlight. Marcus keyed his comm area secure. The only reply was static. He turned slowly, surveying the carnage. Oryx bodies littered the ground, black ichor pooling beneath them. His team stood among the wreckage, weapons lowered, armor scorched but intact. Lisa let out a long breath. That's it? That's it, Marcus said. But this time, the council had been watching. By the next cycle, the operations footage was everywhere. The council didn't wait for the next scheduled meeting. They called an emergency session. The chamber was full again, every seat occupied, the air buzzing with tension. The holodisplay floated in the center, replaying the footage, Marcus's team moving with impossible precision through fire and chaos. The sound of the single sniper shot that dropped the Oryx commander. The flash of Lisa's explosives. The final moments, Marcus standing still as the fires burned around him, weapon lowered, visor reflecting the carnage. Counselor Resha's fins quivered violently. Those weren't soldiers, she hissed. Those were predators. You think that was their full force? Tharn said grimly. No. That was 4 of them. 4. Resha's eyes widened. 4? Marcus was there, in the gallery above, leaning against the railing. His shadow stretched across the floor. For the first time, he spoke, his voice carrying clearly over the murmurs. Delta Force. Navy SEALs. Green Berets. MARSOC. Rangers, he said, listing the names slowly, like a litany. Pick your poison. The delegates stared up at him, many for the first time realizing that the quiet human observer was one of the very monsters they were watching. You think you've seen war, Marcus said, taking a step forward. But you haven't. You've seen skirmishes. Raids. Police actions. He rested his hands on the railing, his gaze sweeping the chamber. Humanity knows war like a second language. And when we send in special forces. He let the silence hang until it was unbearable. We don't come to fight, he said softly. We come to end it. No one in the chamber moved. No one dared. The fear was no longer whispered. It was everywhere. And it was just beginning. The Oryx did not listen. Perhaps they believed the Council's fear was overblown. Perhaps they thought humanity was bluffing. Perhaps they were simply too proud or too stupid to back down. Whatever the reason, they came. Their fleet ripped into Terran-claimed space in a blaze of warp signatures, heavy carriers, spined battleships, escorts by the dozens. The sheer mass of the formation blotted out stars as it dropped into the Saturn sector. But the humans were already waiting. Captain Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, the deck rumbling under his boots as the massive carrier shifted position. Around him, holoscreens displayed enemy trajectories, weapons locks, and firing solutions. Contact. Main fleet dropping at Titan orbit, the sensor officer barked. Confirm IDs, Colonel Whitmore said sharply. Confirmed Oryx carriers, 6 heavy, 14 escorts, 5 dreadnoughts. A low whistle came from somewhere on the bridge. Marcus didn't look away from the display. We're outnumbered. Whitmore glanced at him, a faint smile touching her lips. They're outgunned. She turned back to the crew. Bring the battle group to red alert. All ships weapons free. Let's show them what happens when you pick a fight with Earth. The Resolute's comms officer spoke into her headset. Across space, Terran warships came alive, cruisers, destroyers, gunships, even orbital platforms around Titan. Their weapons powered up in perfect synchronization. Fleet in position, said Tactical. Whitmore's voice was like a blade. Fire. Space lit up. The first volley of railgun rounds streaked from the Terran fleet, incandescent tungsten slugs tearing through the void at a fraction of light speed. They hit the lead Oryx dreadnought before it could raise shields and tore it in half. Missiles launched next, thousands of them, cutting graceful arcs through the blackness before raining down on the enemy formation. The Oryx ships buckled under the onslaught, entire squadrons vanishing in blossoms of white light. On the bridge, Marcus watched without flinching. This was war, real war. And it was only step one. Because Marcus and his team had a different mission. Green light for drop. Marcus checked the seal on his helmet, feeling the familiar click as it locked into place. Around him, Reeves, Lisa, and Connor did the same, their visors glowing softly in the red-lit cabin of the drop pod. The pod shuddered as it detached from the Resolute and hurled itself toward the Oryx command ship. Outside, space turned into a blur of fire as the pod skipped through debris fields and enemy counterfire. 3 minutes to breach, Connor said, his voice calm as ever. Lisa grinned inside her helmet. Plenty of time to make friends. Marcus just nodded, his breathing slow. His mind was already inside the ship, visualizing the route to the bridge. The command vessel was the head of the snake. Cut it off, and the fleet would die with it. The pod slammed into the Oryx hull with a bone-jarring impact. A cutting charge flared, carving a glowing circle through alien alloy. The hatch blew outward. Go! They spilled into the corridor, weapons raised. The Oryx ship stank acidic air, scorched metal, the chitter of alien voices echoing through the dark. The walls pulsed faintly, organic conduits running like veins. Reeves took point, dropping the first guard with a single suppressed shot. Lisa planted a charge on a bulkhead as they moved, blowing an alternate route to bypass a choke point. Connor hacked into a wall terminal, his visor reflecting cascading alien glyphs. I'm in. Rerouting patrols. We've got 90 seconds before they realize the cameras are lying. Plenty, Marcus said. They advanced quickly, cutting through resistance like a scalpel. Every shot counted. Every movement was clean. The bridge doors loomed ahead. Heavily reinforced. Lisa crouched, setting the last of her shaped charges. Fire in the hole. The explosion lit the corridor white. When the smoke cleared, Marcus went in first. The Oryx bridge was a cathedral of alien metal, bathed in green light from dozens of holograms. The warlord turned, its mandibles clicking in fury. It was huge, armored in black carapace, its clawed hands gripping a massive staff. It screeched, a sound halfway between a roar and a challenge. Marcus raised his rifle. End of the line. The warlord charged. Marcus's first shot blew one of its arms apart. Reeves's second shot took out a support drone. Lisa flanked, planting a charge on the command console. Connor flooded the ship's systems with false shutdown signals, triggering chaos throughout the fleet. The warlord swung, its claw grazing Marcus's shoulder plate and denting the armor. He rolled with the impact, came up on one knee, and fired twice more. The warlord stumbled. Marcus stood, closing the distance, and pressed the barrel of his rifle against its chest. It's over. The shot echoed like thunder. The warlord fell, its body crashing to the deck. The bridge went silent. Minutes later, they were back aboard the Resolute, watching from the observation deck as the Oryx fleet broke apart in disarray. Leaderless, their ships scattered into warp space, some colliding with each other in the chaos. Transmission from the Council, the comm officer reported. They're convening now. The council chamber was at full capacity again. This time there was no argument, no shouting, no bluster. The delegates' faces were grim, some pale with fear. Admiral Ktharn stood first, his voice solemn. Let the record show, we have voted unanimously. No species shall make war on humanity again. To do so is suicide. Marcus stood in the gallery, helmet tucked under one arm. The chamber was utterly silent, every eye on him. He spoke quietly, but the words carried. You don't have to fear us. But if you bring war to us, he let the pause stretch. We will finish it. And for the first time in centuries, the council chamber erupted, not in shouting, but in applause. Because they all understood now. Humans called them special forces. But to the galaxy, they were something else entirely. War enders.